Hello and welcome to this FUTUREWORKS tutorial on 3D Studio Max. Over the course of these tutorials we'll be learning how to use 3D Studio Max, and this video tutorial assumes that you've never used 3D Studio Max before. So if you have and you feel like you're comfortable with the skills that will be shown in this video, which will be obviously on the title, you can go ahead and skip to a more advanced tutorial. The first time you open 3D Studio Max, this is the screen that you'll have, and this is called a launchpad basically. And on the left hand side here you'll have some essential skills movies that basically, if you click on them, they'll open in your web browser and it will play a small movie that or a small video that will explain some essential skills that you need to use 3D Studio Max. So if I were to click here, it will show me a video zoom in, pan in, and navigation essentials. Here you have like create objects, editing objects, assigning materials, animation, and etc. But we won't go into these because our tutorial will be more in depth than the ones you'll see there. On the right hand side you have start using 3D Studio Max, and from here we can create a new empty scene, which will just open a new scene. We'll have the open file button, and also we have recent files. Now this might be empty for you since I'm assuming that you've never used 3D Studio Max, but if you do have some, obviously you've obviously opened and saved a file before. But here we can just see folder files that we've used before, and we can just access directly through here. If you don't want this launchpad showing every time you open the program, you can just click this, untick this box here. I like to have it on because I like to just access the files that I've already opened through here more rapidly. But let's go ahead and close this for now. And this is the 3D Studio Max UI. It can be a bit daunting at the beginning, and there's a lot of information on the screen, but we won't be using all of it, and most of the stuff is sort of reiterated, so you can find stuff here that you can find stuff in these toolbars at the same time. So it's not as bad as it is. We also won't be using all of the UI since it's not needed, and since we're not doing animation or anything, we won't be using any of the UI down here. So later on I'll show you how to hide that stuff if you want to. I personally don't mind it, and I just leave it there. But yeah, let's get started with the whole UI. The first button you see up here is the big 3D Studio Max icon, and if I click on this, it just has your standard everyday program options here. You've got obviously a new file, you've got resetting files, you've got opening a file that you've already created, saving as, importing and exporting into your own scene, sending, and we also have the properties button here, which will allow you to customize the program and scene more to your liking. We won't go into these because they're they're fairly self-explanatory. And if you see this bar here, it's called the Quick Access Toolbar, and basically it has shortcuts to everything that's in this button. So you've got the new scene here, open file, save file, the undo and redo buttons, which you can just use the typical shortcuts for, and etc. Right underneath it we have the typical sort of edit toolbar that you find in most programs. This obviously is a little edited for the sake of using 3D Studio Max. So you've got your edit tools, your tools, grouping options, viewing options, creating options, modifying, and just about everything you want to do in 3D Studio Max can be done right on from this toolbar. But all the options that are in here can also be found through different toolbars and different panels. For example, we won't be using animation or graph editing. If you want to customize, you can customize it if you want, but again, we won't be looking into this. Max script we won't be using, and if you want help, you can ask me for help, or there's a big guide in here, but I guess this is what these tutorials are for. We'll be looking into rendering later on, and modifiers, but for today we'll just keep it to UI elements. So the toolbar right underneath it has a lot of really cool options, linking and unlinking, different selection options, moving, rotating and scaling, which we'll be using a lot. You've got where you want your pivot to be, which we'll explain later what pivots are and stuff like that. Snapping, You can snap to the grid, to vert, to a certain angle, whatever you want. You've got create selection sets, which will allow you to organize your scene much better. You've got mirroring, aligning tools, and graph editing and stuff that we won't go into. Also, you've got rendering tools here, but again, we probably won't be using these buttons for that kind of stuff. This button here, text tools, you probably won't have yet. This is because I've got a plugin installed that we will go into much later on, after you've properly learned how to use the program. So right underneath that you've got your viewports, and basically here's where you'll be looking at your scene and making all of the changes in your scene. So for example, if I just quickly create a teapot and zoom in, you can see that we have the different viewports. So we've got a top view of whatever object we have here, we've got a front view, we've got a left view, and then we've got perspective view. Now again, there's a lot of information, and it can be quite daunting to have like a lot of different views of an object here. But you know, we can make this, we can change the sizes of each viewport if we want, and make it a bit less, make some of them a bit less of a nuisance, and be able to use our perspective view or our front view in whichever manner we want. If I want to just maximize one of the viewports, I can just click this button here with the viewport that I have selected. So if I click this button here, it will maximize the viewport that I'm on. And again, if I want to go back, I just left click it again. To select a viewport without affecting the scene, you can just right click on each viewport, and that will select the viewport without affecting your scene. If I just went in here and press right click, it will select the object. Whereas if I just want it to just select the viewport and not affect my scene, I can just right click and it will just go into the viewport. So it's a simple way of not making silly mistakes of moving over when you don't want to. You can just click this and then right click on the viewport and then press the maximizing button, and it will maximize it for you. So now we've got now you know a bit about the viewports. You might notice that you have what's called a view cube here. What this allows you to is to sort of swap on the fly within any viewport you're on to any of the views that we mentioned earlier. So if I want to have a front view from my perspective view, I can just click on here, and it'll change to the view that I want. So if I want to go on top, I just click on the top button in the cube. If we have these widgets here, which we can sort of quarterly rotate our object, and some quite useful tools. If I just want to rotate my object using the guide, the view cube as a guide, I can just left click and hold, and I can move around, and again I can use that view cube as a guide. But we probably won't be using the view cube too much. If you don't want the view cube there and it's annoying you can just go to view cube, and you know, unclick that, and that'll hide the view cube. If you want it on, again you could just go back, view cube, show the view cube, or you can just use the shortcut that is shown there. So now that we have this, I'm going to show you how to zoom in on an object. So imagine I had a really big scene with loads of objects here. I don't know, we have this is obviously a really simple scene, but if we have a scene and I just want to zoom in on one object, I can just select the object that I want, and if I press the C or the Z button, it will zoom me right in and sort of frame the object that I want. Now this also works with different selections. So if I have two objects selected, so for example I want to select the teapot and the sphere, I can just drag and click and select, and if I press C, it'll actually frame both objects for me. And if I want to frame all of the objects that I have in the scene at once, I can just select all objects, press Z, and it will frame all of the objects for me. Now this will be really useful when you're trying to find objects and just editing them one by one at any time you want. But also sometimes the camera can get a bit annoying, and you're trying to move through an object like this, and you're too zoomed in or something like that, and you can't really you'll notice that it gets a bit annoying. You can just press Z or Z and it will take you to the framed version of your object. So now that we know this, I'm also going to show you navigational tools. So as you can see, I'm rotating my scene in a really simple way, and then I'm panning around it. And this can be done really easily by just to pan around the scene. If I just hold the middle mouse button and click the middle mouse button, I could just pan around the scene. If I hold Alt and the middle button, I will rotate my camera around the scene. And this is really all that you need. To zoom in, you just have to scroll up and down with your middle mouse button, and that's pretty much it. You don't really need anything else to navigate your scene, apart from obviously framing every now and then, so that you get a simpler rotation and panning. One thing that I do want to say is that the camera rotates on your last selected object. So if I have this selected object, it will rotate around whatever I had selected last. So if, for example, I've got this and it's like being a bit hard to rotate around, if I just press Z, it will rotate around the selected object, because it just senses it to the scene. Another thing that you need to learn about navigation is that you've got the different buttons of navigation down here. So if I wanted to rotate my scene, I can just click on this button here and then left click inside, and I can rotate my scene with the widget that I've got here. I've got different rotation options if I just want to rotate in a certain angle without affecting all the other angles. I can just rotate it from here, clicking on one of these points around here. And also you've got your zoom options, so I can zoom in and out using the buttons down here. I don't tend to use them, so it's up to you if you want to use them or not. But yeah, so this is going to do it for this tutorial. Hopefully by now you'll be able to navigate around a simple scene and pan and rotate and zoom, and you'll understand what each toolbar has. Don't worry too much about what we're showing here. We'll go into this panel right here, which is basically what we'll probably be using the most, along with the graphite modeling tools that are around here. But for now, just try and make a simple box. Click here, make a simple box, and just get yourself familiarized with the Z binding key, panning, zooming, and rotating, and just get yourself familiarized with the program. But for now, I'm just gonna stop recording this video, and we'll go into the next tutorial next.